He's been compared to Peter Jennings. He was the lead anchor for CNN in Español for 16 years. Then he joined VEME, the Spanish network associated with public television, and he does a show called Jorge Gestoso Investiga. Jorge Gestoso investigates on current issues. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks very much, Patricia.
One of the things that we just watched, one of the topics that you cover is immigration. And the Arizona law, which continues to be a very controversial law, you covered very many aspects of this law. What can you tell us about what you learned from this experience?
I did learn a lot. I spent 4 months doing the investigation. I went to Arizona. I live in Washington, so I was interviewing what I think that were the key players on that issue. And I did learn that regarding immigration, the U.S. is very much polarized. There's a lot of passion in each side. I did learn that politicians are exacerbating the fear and the insecurity, trying to match that what the undocumented Hispanics brings is precisely drugs, crime, negative things. I did have the opportunity to interview the sheriff of the Santa Cruz County in Nogales, Antonio Estrada. He has been with the police for 40 years, and it's the only Hispanic in the border. And on camera, he has his statement saying that those things are lies. Hispanics are not bringing crime. The crime has, as a matter of fact, diminished. They are not the source of, as Janet Brewer, the governor, said that they were the drug mules. They are not. There's a very less than 0.1% of Hispanics that are bringing drugs. But that has been done with a political purpose. Janet Brewer, when she started with that sort of speech, was having 26% of approval. She started like that. She signed the SB 1070 law and went up to 65% and has been reelected. And that sort of strategy, if you want, the idea is if you exacerbate the insecurity and the fear, the politician establish him or herself as the person who is going to save you against that, and the person that is going to punish with the worst severity that type of crimes. And therefore, they appeal to certain part of the population who like that idea. So there's a lot of politics involved, and also it has to do with the real sources of the problem of documented immigration, which basically what we discovered was 3 things. First of all, the commercial practices of the U.S. with Latin America, what they say that is free trade. The ambassador of Ecuador in Washington that I did interview explained to me that they believe that is not free and not fair because they're using subsidies. For example, with the free trade agreement with Mexico, the NAFTA, the U.S. was putting, during 20 years, $55 billion of subsidies to the U.S. producers, especially with the corn. And the NAFTA agreement generates 2.3 million unemployed agricultural workers in Mexico who ended up in the U.S. trying to get a job. The businessmen of the U.S., 450,000 jobs a year are being offered because they don't have enough workers and there's not enough visas for them to come legally. So they know that they're offering jobs to undocumented people. They're totally accomplice. And the third thing is the governments in Latin America who are governing for the rich and exporting the poor to the U.S. with the endorsement of the U.S.
Do you think this law hindered or helped or will help get a comprehensive immigration law? What has this law done to the political situation in the United States?
I think that is going to help to get a real immigration reform. Why? Because it's so imperfect. So it has generated so much outrage within the Hispanic community that is pushing the federal government to act. They were doing nothing, and basically the state of Arizona say, if you don't do it, we'll do it. They did this that is being perceived by the majority of Hispanics as xenophobic, any type of negative sides. They say that is discriminatory, etc., etc., and it's extending to other states. So that is going to push the federal government to act and take the bull by the horns and legislate on that.
Because you look at both sides of the issue whenever you do a report, you also spoke to people who said, this is a problem. Since 1990, we've had 5 times the number of illegal immigration to Arizona than we ever have. What did you hear from their point of view?
Their point of view is that they feel threatened. They believe that these people are coming like vampires to suck everything good that the country offers. Education, healthcare, bringing the mothers to have the kids in the U.S. They are stealing our jobs. And on top of that, they are violating the law. So rather than to be waiting online their turn, they are jumping the line. And you cannot be selective in rewarding people who violate the law. So if you're saying, okay, we work on an immigration reform that basically in the long term regularize their situation, for them is a fake amnesty. And you cannot grant amnesty to someone who violates the law. That's basically their position.
In the mainstream media, what about the immigration debate is not being talked about? The 4 things that you mentioned?
Well, the thing is, I think the best quote that we have in the special is coming from the congressman from Arizona, Raul Grijalva. He says, this situation of the undocumented workers is not going to be solved by a law in the U.S. This has to be an international effort. The U.S. have to understand that Latin America needs to make progress in terms of healthcare, employment, education. And we are going to depend more and more in our relations with our continent, with Latin America. So, he says, the U.S. has to look itself at the mirror and realizes that you cannot blame on the poor, we cannot blame the undocumented workers as the core of our problems. He said, it's hypocritical from our side to sell guns to Mexico for them to kill each other, saying in this country we can sell guns and it's a problem. This is part of the hypocrisy of the U.S., he said. It's hypocritical from our side to think that we are the victims. The only victims, he said, in this issue are the poor kids, the migrant kids, that they're being forced to come to the U.S. in search of a job because of all those circumstances that the U.S. very much helped to create. So we really have to admit that we are a huge part of the problem. And another guest, that is Gustavo Torres from Casa de Maryland, that is the largest immigration advocacy institution over there, said the U.S. is not partially responsible of this undocumented problem. It's totally responsible for that, because with the way that is behaving, that is acting, is creating the problem. And he adds, but it's not only them, also the governments in Africa and in Latin America that export the poor that are also creating the problem. Why? He said, because they're benefiting from the remittances that they're sending to their countries, and the only thing that it's doing is recreating a system that is bringing injustice.
Right. Let's talk about something else that's happening right now, and that is violence. We've seen a lot of violence in Latin America. You've covered violence in Colombia. But the violence in Mexico right now is truly worrying, especially the border states. What have you found about that? What's happening there, and what created it, and where do we go from here?
Always the perception is, let's concentrate in this particular frame of the film.
Frame of reference, right.
It's like if you go to a movie theater, you get in that second in a movie that is already in progress, and you see one frame, and you're judging.
That's it.
The whole film.
No context.
No context. And the thing is that in the U.S., 5% of the world population consumes about 50% of the cocaine of the world. So if it wouldn't be because of the consumption, nothing could exist from the south border of Mexico down. First thing, the director of the Mexico Institute of the Woodrow Wilson Center in Washington, Andrew Seeley, has said to me, for the U.S. it's much easier to fight a war outside of its borders than inside of the border. So the perception is the U.S. has decided to put all the guilt on the production and all the concentration of the media in picturing that frame, and we're not talking at all about our shared responsibility, which is here there's a huge consumption, probably the largest drug addicts of the world. Second, most of the guns that are being used for that violence are sold from Texas. Third, the drug cartels were moving from Colombia to Mexico. Right. And they're fighting for territory mostly. And therefore, the thing is, what you are seeing is the U.S. commitment to the drug trafficking problem is helping others to fight there. We're not showing what we are doing to fight the problem in ourselves.
You mentioned a statistic, which is the United States makes up 5% of the world's population, and consumes 50%
of the cocaine of the world. And if you say that to the U.S. authorities, because the idea is always try to defect the responsibility, say, but you know, there's a new phenomenon in Latin America. Now the Latin Americans are also starting to consume. There's that thing in English that say 2 wrongs doesn't make 1 right.
Right.
The thing is, how many minutes, how many lines in TV or in radio, how many lines in the newspaper we read every day about the advance or not about the fight against consumption? Very little. Every single night on TV or in the newspapers, you are seeing the awful assassination of tens of people in Mexico. I have no problem at all that everything that happens in Mexico will be reported. Absolutely the best thing to do. But what is missing is the other side of the story that we are not seeing reported.
Why do you think that is?
I think that I tend to agree with Andrew Seeley, because it's much easier to blame someone else, and it's much easier to fight a drug war outside of your borders. Right.
Let's talk about legalization of drugs. Is there more talk about that in Latin America, in the United States?
There's more talk in Latin America
than here.
Yeah, in Mexico they are talking more and more, and there's big discussion, debate. Even the ex-president Vicente Fox was for that, at least was in favor. And there are both sides of the issue. In the U.S. there are some initiatives in California with marijuana.
You take the profit motive out of it, and that's the main reason, right? They would want to legalize it. You also did Participa in 2008, Participa in 2012. So you're very much in tune with Latino power, political power. Tell us what trends you noticed.
Well, in 2008, the presidential election, there was 1 million more of Hispanics who voted. And they're playing more and more a key role to decide certain states and even decide the presidency of the U.S. That trend continues. In 2010, in the midterms election, and now in the past November the 4th, there were like 800,000 more Hispanics voted than 4 years ago, in 2006. The trend is Hispanics were revolted about what they heard about the immigration and the naming or the bad names that they were getting from part of the political spectrum, and a new phenomenon that in the midterms election there were some elected officials that were elected and they were Hispanic Republicans, because traditionally the Hispanics vote for Democrats about 2-1 against Republicans. And in this case, for example, in the case of Miami and the Florida with this gentleman Rubio, he was a Republican of the Tea Party that was getting part of his electorate was the Hispanic vote.
How do you think that's changing, though? We see Hispanics voting more, but we hear this sleeping giant will wake up. Will Hispanics really have that much political power when they don't register to vote? You said they increased 1 million in the last election. How much more do they need to increase to really have power?
A lot. It could be 20 million voters. There are 20 million Hispanics that are able to vote, and only 9 million are registered. So there's a long way ahead. And also one of the things that happened with the Hispanic community, according to the sources, is that this is not a monolithic community. It's a mosaic of different groups who do not act as a whole. So you have the Mexicans American being 2 out of 3 Hispanics, the Cubans in Miami, the Puerto Ricans in New York, the Dominicans, Central Americans, South Americans, but there's no one leader, there's no one movement.
Why do you notice, though, so much voter apathy within the Latin community? If you have 11 million when there could be 20 million voting, why aren't they?
I will say that 2 things: education, and on top of that, sentiment or feeling of deception, of deceiving, that this is a political system that is so unfair to me that I'm not going to change anything.
And that sort of comes from Latin America, their experience of Latin America, right, where the governments don't respond to the people. Let me ask you about Latin America and the United States and the relationship. Brazil is now a very powerful economy. Some Latin American countries are actually growing dramatically economically. Will this change the relationship between the United States and Latin America, which has generally seen Latin America as sort of the little brother?
The perception is that it's not going to change. The perception is that the U.S. still has pretty low in his list of priorities Latin America. It's much more concerned about the Middle East, Egypt, Israel, North Korea, everything that could be nuclear, Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, and that concentrates their agenda. Latin America, compared to those regions, are pretty much stable. The economic relations is that the U.S. really works pretty well. There's no interruption of flowing of any raw material that the U.S. really need. But what is taking place is Latin America is growing because there's a new phenomenon in Latin America that is China. China has come to Latin America and is buying left and right. Brazil is selling them not only their crops, but they're building shipyards.
Technology. They're selling the Chinese technology.
Planes.
Right.
Chile, it has copper, Argentina with the soybean, etc., etc. So Latin America, in terms of the economy, first of all, it weathered the world financial crisis much better than the U.S.
Right.
And second, has been growing steadily. It's doing well. It's doing better. There's optimism in Latin America. And the region has learned that they could live without depending so much as they did historically with the U.S. So Latin America is starting to wear the long trousers.
Right.
And the U.S.
more sure of themselves.
Exactly. And the U.S. is keeping a good relationship, but it's not necessarily investing in the future of that partnership.
So you don't see that changing very much in the next 10?
At least it's what I hear in Washington from the experts.
Let's talk about Latinos in the United States. What do you find as a journalist are some of the greatest challenges they face to really thrive in this country?
There's a lot of stigma. In a way, could be discussed, but the story of the American dream, it's a subject of a big question. Because what is the American dream compared to what? And someone was mentioning here in Houston, there is this gentleman who came from Mexico. He started as a dishwasher in a restaurant. Now he owns 7. Blah, blah, blah. So that is American dream. But we're not talking about that he's the engineer of NASA that is going to put the next people in Mars. So even though you could have some Hispanics that could be thriving, it's thriving par rapport or where did they start. So I don't see Hispanics being the key players in this country. They are not really in key positions of corporations or government, of different aspects of social society. They are achieving success by comparison to where they were coming from. So it's not an absolute success. It's a relative success, and that is, I think, the stigma. If you were coming from a Hispanic origin, you are going to reach up to here, and you are not going to be further because the circumstances, the many, are not going to let you go.
Why did you come to the United States from Uruguay?
A love story.
It is a love story.
It's a love story.
I like love stories.
Well, you know, that's what people are going to get from this.
We want to know.
Yeah. The thing is, I did meet in Uruguay my current wife. She's from Europe, and we decided to live halfway from her place and our place in a neutral territory. So neither of us could be a total local, and the other one a total visitor. And she knew English, and I knew Spanglish, and that's why we ended up here.
How has Hispanic media changed since you started?
It grew in terms of it became more elaborated. Technically, it could be more sophisticated. My concern is that there is room for improvement in terms of catering segments of the Hispanic population that watch Hispanic commercial television that could be, in my opinion, lacking more quality or more in-depth programming. That's the subject that is still pending, but it has grown incredibly even in the viewership. There are sometimes in Miami that the most watched news program is in Spanish.
Right. Well, and in some markets like Los Angeles, they watch more Spanish.
Exactly.
What, of all the interviews you've done in your lifetime, you've interviewed presidents, celebrities, which one had the most impact in you personally? In general,
the interviews that I like the most are from the common person of the street, because a common person of the street tells it as it is. The politicians, in most of the cases, are spin doctors. They use you to set their agenda. They are not going to answer the question that you put them against the ropes, because that's what the people want to know. And another thing is, the most interesting things are done by people that are not famous. So sometimes you say, well, tonight I'm going to watch the interview with so-and-so because it's so-and-so. But Joe Sixpack could be more interesting as a contributor of society than a renowned person.
Thank you so much, Jorge Gestoso, for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you to you, Patricia, for inviting me.
Okay, so Sincere, you was telling me about the movie Curve because we was discussing this whole cheating culture that's prevalent right now. I did talk about it in a previous video called Side Bitch, Side Nigga, but go ahead and give me the synopsis, or the people again, the synopsis of the movie Curve.
Well, basically, it stars Julianne Moore, who is Julianne Hough, the girl who did blackface with crazy eyes. So that's one strike. But I was watching it, I was streaming it because I wanted to get into just dissecting films that are stereotypical, where you have a hitchhiker, and a girl, she was supposed to be going to her wedding, basically, to meet up with her fiance. But she comes across this hitchhiker when her vehicle breaks down. And the funny thing is, before he even comes towards her in the film, coffee spills on her shirt. So she takes off her shirt and opens the door, and she's coming outside with just her bra on and these little shorts. And she goes in the back of her trunk to look for a shirt to put on. And lo and behold, the guy comes out from behind her, and catches her with her bra on. And, she's like, oh my God. And, then she runs to the side of the vehicle and puts another shirt on. But anyway, the movie is about her picking up a guy who is a serial rapist, and basically her having to fight for her life. But the problem is, the reason why she kind of got into that situation is because at first she was physically attracted to him. And that's why she kept extending his stay by saying, oh, okay, you know what? You can come in the car. I'll take you to the Highway 80. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'll take you to the motel.
Yeah, that's the trend. That's the image and the message that's being promoted in the culture, because again, if you listen to the music, R&B is not even R&B anymore. It's just about singing to another man's woman. The rappers, they've been doing that for the longest. So what's happening is that infidelity itself is like really popular right now. It's like the cologne that every guy has on and the perfume that every woman is trying to try on themselves. So basically what she wanted to do was go ahead and get a little freak on while she was out there in the middle of nowhere with some stranger, but she happens to almost about to get married to probably a really good guy.
Yeah, the guy even asked him in this movie called Curve. He's like, so describe your man to me, like what's up with your guy? He's like, oh, he's a great guy, he's very intelligent, he's driven, we've been together for a while, I love him, yada yada yada. And then you just see him just staring at her, like in his mind he's thinking, then why are you driving me to this motel? You could have just dropped me off at where I asked you to before.
Now, you notice with a lot of these films, the guy that they're cheating on, spouse that they're cheating on. And we're going to talk about the guy because this was a guy in the situation. And it's like that in the film Unfaithful with Richard Gere. We was talking about that a little earlier. But notice now, the guy is not like a sorry deadbeat ass type cat. He's like a good guy, real happy type dude. He's made her happy. Everything is perfect. They got kids on the way. He has an engineering degree. He makes a lot of money. But it's just something that he's not doing that's satisfying the lady.
Yeah, basically, going to Unfaithful, it looked like they had everything. Their marriage was pretty much good, and just because he was just working a little bit too much, instead of her, talking to him about it, it goes straight into her being seduced by this young guy with this pretty face and this, chiseled body. And the same thing for Curve, even though she didn't ever get to that next stage of actually physically cheating, because the guy turns out to be a serial rapist and a psychopath. The fact is, she allowed him to be in the car, and she drove him as far as she did because she was physically attracted to him. You could tell, even if it was in a subconscious manner.
And again, this is all a part of a bigger scheme that many people do not know or they're not aware of. Like I said, if you read about Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, they were looking to basically remove the intimacy from man and woman. So this is why you kind of get in all of this random sex, jump off, fling, side chick, side nigga, side bitch activity. And the crazy part about it is not specifically black folks. It's all across the American spectrum. And so in Unfaithful, the thing about Unfaithful, they had Richard Gere, like I said, he's looking all pathetic, old, his jacket was hanging off of him. She had to help him fix his glasses sometimes because he was just so pathetic. Like, she was really with him out of feeling sorry for him. But then here comes this Rico Suave looking motherfucker, you know, and oh, yes, I am an artist. I paint. I would love to paint you nude. You know, all of that. So that's naturally seductive to a middle class woman that hasn't had the hots between the legs in a hot minute, you know. So that's the thing they're promoting right now, because again, if you look at a lot of these guys that are supposedly being cheated on in these relationships, they're good guys. They're perfectly good guys. The women have been with them, they find them attractive, whatever, but it's just something they're quite not doing, or there's that edge of seduction that these women love to teeter on in these films. It's just the society itself. It's not even necessarily just only women. For God knows, we know what's going on with the men and the Instagram women and all of that craziness. So
yeah, and even Michael? No, what's his name? Michael Douglas. Remember the famous movie he played in with Glenn Close, when she was the crazy seductive side chick?
Oh, you talking about Basic Instinct?
Yes. No, wait, what? Oh, Basic. Oh, you're right. He played in 2 movies where he had that.
Yeah, he's had
Basic
some bad
Instincts. Yeah, it was Basic Instincts, and it was another one where the whole famous rabbit scene in the pot.
Oh yes, it was Basic Instinct and then Fatal Attraction. One was Basic Instinct and Fatal Attraction, and yeah. So that's, you know, that's Hollywood. That's the thing, and it's really against the idea and the concept of marriage, institutionalized marriage, or whatever they want to call it. Like, you know, you got a lot of people, I don't believe in marriage as an institution. Okay, well, that's cool. But if you notice the thing that they're pushing, these people don't necessarily stay alone and do a lot of sleeping around. It was like they wait till they get into a relationship and then they decide to start sleeping around.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they're a good guy or a good woman until that one person, you know, 10 years later, 10 years into marriage or something, that one person comes into their life and now they're, you know, throwing away someone that they're supposed to love, and, you know, and trust, throwing away trust as well.
Well, look at the goofy ass movie with Taraji P. Henson and Idris Elba.
Was it No Good Deed?
No Good Deeds.
Was that the name of the movie?
No Good Deeds.
Yeah.
Now, her husband, you can tell he's a professional, career-orientated black man, all right? A rare specimen that he's actually with a black woman. You know, honey, I'm going on a trip. Oh, here's your lunch, dear. And then here comes Idris. Hey, can I use your shower? Look at me. I'm sexy. You know, and I said, you know, watching the film, I was like, well, how is he in your house?
Yeah, well, yeah. What happened? He made, I don't know what, but when you have a child in the house, right? I don't care how desperate somebody is. I'm like, you stay outside. I'll call someone for you. Don't worry, stay on that porch, but you ain't coming in my house. Right.
But this is what they're doing. But let me say this, though. If it was a regular looking cat, because let's be real, Idris Elba
stayed on the porch.
Yeah, Idris Elba, he don't look like, you know, the guy that's putting in the mail in your mailbox down the street. You know, he don't look like the mailman. So if it was a regular looking cat, this is how you know Hollywood fucks with your moral compass. Okay? If it was a regular looking guy, she would not even open the door. You know, sir, could you get off our door? I'm calling the police. Right? But since it's Idris Elba, right? And a lot of black women, a lot of women in general, they like this guy. So what's happening when they see him, they automatically disregard that she has a man.
They forgot. A lot of people forgot. Yeah. They're like, was he mad? Is she mad? Oh, I can't remember, but him in that shower.
Yeah, right? He all in the shower, you know, all over there. You know, the husband already got the water set precisely to how he like it, and here come the new nigga. You know, so that's how they mess with your moral compass.
The funny thing about that scene, even Taraji, she was like, when they had to do that scene, she was like, damn, isn't he supposed to be the bad guy? Like, she said she forgot.
Right, and that's how, you know, they gauge. That's how they play with your moral judgment. And that's Hollywood. Hollywood will have you rooting for the killer. You know?
Yeah, and he was really a effed up person. You know, he just got finished killing the white chick that he got out of prison. He killed her.
Right.
You know, so
he killed the cop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but it didn't matter. He looked good to the women.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this whole thing that's being pushed in Hollywood right now. I mean, you seen that goofiness. You hear it in the music. You know, oh girl, like the guy can really sing. This is a thing that's messing with women. This is why they fuck with women a little more than men. They'll have a guy singing like Chris Brown or August Alsina singing to her, right? As a listener, as an audience member, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he would be singing about your man can't do it like I can, right? Now, if a regular if a regular dude walked up to a woman and like, your man can't do it like I can, she'd probably slap him or curse him out.
Or be like, ugh.
Yeah.
Get your gross ass out of my face.
Yeah, she'd give him one of them Pusha T's. Ugh. One of them. Right? But since it's August Alsina or Chris Brown or Jason Derulo or Usher or whoever that can harmonize in tune with melodies or has a nice voice, she's automatically disarmed. She's just disarmed. And so she's like absorbing it. Like, you know what? If the right dude walk up on me singing like that, he might just get it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like that across the board. In that film, it sounds goofy. Curve was goofy. No Good Deeds was goofy. Like, these films, people don't really understand what they do to them in the long run. Again, they kind of had this thing where you're just with this person because that other person, that right person, hasn't come along and swept you off of your feet.
Yeah, it goes back into that, that stand-up comedy that Chris Rock had, when he said sometimes people are just settling because they either lost their number one choice or they haven't found their number one choice.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
they're just with somebody for convenience until they find their number one.
And that is the case a lot of times. That is the case. And it's unfortunate, but then we kind of live in a society where we don't really make up our mind. Think about it. You go outside and you say, I want something to eat. You got McDonald's, you got Burger King, you got like Whataburger, you got Wendy's. So it's like you always got a different choice. And even on the internet, when guys are going around here liking these pictures, and women too, think about it. You find this guy attractive. Ooh, he's nice, so you like the picture. This guy attractive. So it's a different face. So it's like restructuring your brain to basically focus on more than one person. It's the same thing with guys. That's why guys, when they get with a lady, they feel like they're trapped because they see all the other women running around or see all the other women on Facebook and Instagram. Like our parents and our grandparents, when they got with one person, that was it. They were like, hey, this is great. I'm done here. I don't need to keep looking. Plus, I'm getting older.
Yeah, well, this is Teacher. He kind of touched on it, even though he was talking about it in another sense of people of this generation being overstimulated because they're being pulled from every direction when it comes to the education system. But
Right.
You can use that also when it comes to relationships, because we have to admit to ourselves that people of this generation are way more stimulated than any other generation before them. The other generations didn't have all this in front of them, where it's like you have so many choices,
Right.
and you have so many avenues to actually stray away.
Right.
If you're not a strong enough person.
Yeah, and this is where you see all this double insecurity. This is why guys always checking their females. Yo, man, why you laughing at the phone? Who you talking to? Or the women. I've dated females, and if I'm texting, they will immediately say, who you texting?
Mm-hmm.
I'm texting myself, a nigga. Why? You know what I'm saying? That's why. Yeah, but you're right. It's overstimulated access, and what happens actually, though, you burn out too. Because
that's a good point. Yes.
At some point, you just kind of like you pooped, and you see it all the time. Whether again it's Facebook, Instagram, just watching things on the internet, just engaging with people. There's so many slick ways, so many backhanded ways. People cheating online, emotional, talking about their man, talking about their woman. It's just one of those things that's really happening right now in the culture itself. It's all being pushed to initially destroy the family. See, black people, sometimes we get kind of lost in our own struggle, but it's not only just the black family, it's all families that, is the target. Because you break down the family, then people are much more easier to control and manipulate.
Well, yeah, it's like people don't know, just like when it comes to our brains, there's so many things that affect us subconsciously that we don't want to admit affects us. Like even when we are talking about these movies like No Good Deeds, yeah, we can say that a good portion of women are definitely faithful to their man, but people can't deny that when they watch certain scenes, they get a certain emotional reaction to it, male and female. Yeah. So it's like you said, Hollywood especially, they play on those things.
Yes, they do. And also it's all about introducing an idea. That's all you need, is planting the seed. So before, you may not have been interested in cheating on your spouse, but then let's say you sit through a good ass movie and you think, and you're like, well, she is kind of boring, but I ain't gonna do nothing now, but I'm just saying, yeah, I could use to spice up. Next thing you know, you at your job, you looking at the quote unquote work boo. You heard about this term, right? The work boo.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people have work boos. Be a work husband, be the work wife. So you gotta think about this. Think about this ignorant shit. You got your main girl, you got your girlfriend, you got your side chick, then you got your wife, your work boo, and then you got side nigga, you got the guy that you just kicking it with, you got the guy you just talk to probably on the phone, then you got your husband, you got old boyfriends. You see how you got all of this to split your attention.
Exactly, and J. Cole touched upon it in one of his singles where he said, be happy with who you are and with who you are with, because he said when he first got into Hollywood, he said he got sidetracked. Everybody's saying, oh, you can always find a better bitch, you can always be with this woman on Instagram or in Hollywood or whatever. And he said he finally realized, wait a minute, like who he was with was already good enough for him. Right. She was already a dime. So why is he trying to step out? And
it's just that culture again. I'm always looking for the next best thing, or the illusion that the grass is greener on the other side. So
yes.
Yeah, so you always have people, I want what you got, or I want what's better, or I think it's better. So it's like if they already in a Bentley and they see a Maserati drive past, oh man, I gotta come up. I gotta come up. What do you mean you gotta come up? You're in a Rolls Royce, you're in a Bentley. But they don't look at it that way. And it's like that. You can even see it in couples' demeanors. Like sometimes if I'm out, I'll happen to take a look and I'll see like if a guy's with a woman, she's looking at other dudes, he's looking at other women. And they're always doing it when neither one is watching. So it's always like you're always on the hunt. You never, like you say, you're never satisfied with who you got and who you with. And what we can't understand is the reason why a lot of our parents and our great-grandparents were happy, because they didn't play into all of that confusion.
Yeah, they didn't have people also getting into their marriage and interfering or having media telling them, there's someone better actually, or like you said with the example you used with the cars. But now that's everywhere. It's like you said, people could be happy with their content with their partner, but then they'll let other outside entities get involved, and now they're thinking about, maybe I should try to step up or something. And although a lot of those people come to regret it, that decision.
Oh yeah. You know how many old heads I know that were players, and in some cases pimps when they were younger. Mm-hmm. And then right now they're like, well, man, I went through a lot of good women. Man, now that my ass 65 years old, I'm by myself. I don't look like I used to, and I can't get no woman to talk with me because all the women my age going with young niggas. Well, that's good for you, old goofy ass nigga. So that's how I feel. I think it's stupid. I don't have time for all that. It sounds nice. It sounds desirable to be in the middle of the crowd and having a bunch of women, or for a lady, she's got a bunch of side dudes. But all they're doing is playing with your moral compass, and people can't necessarily catch on that that's what they're doing with the average man and average woman. I seen it even in mainstream media where, what was it? I saw it was like on Fox 5, and this was an all-white newscast. It says, in our next story coming up, what exactly is a side chick? And is it bad to be one? I said, oh my God. So it's gotten to this point?
Well, yeah, and then for like the side chick, they say, you get all the benefits and none of the headaches. You get the money, you get the sex, you get to go out, but you don't have to deal with the kids. You don't have to deal with any of the cons that people can consider to be in a relationship. So they're just all over the place. Same thing with the side dude. I literally saw a meme where it says, yeah, I don't have to deal, as a guy, I don't have to deal with the headaches, but I can dick your girl down. Like,
right, and see, and all that stuff here don't make no sense because I don't even like to share water, you know, so that's so nasty and goofy. But here's the thing, this is what's so gangster about it. This is what I love about all of this shit we attempting to rearrange. We always trying to undo some shit that's natural. What's always funny to me is that at the end of the day, a woman is not built for that. She can do all of that, but when she come home, even if she got through drilling somebody else's dude out real good, did everything nasty to him, and he's like, oh baby, you know, you damn girl, shoot, my wife, oh, she can learn a lot of shit from you, right? But then what happens, she'll say, oh, I get the money, all that stuff. She go home, she talk to her girls on the phone, girl, yeah. She turns the phone off. She watches TV. She's in that house or that apartment by herself. Guess what? She understands she's by herself. Because at the end of the day, people are still yearning to be with other folks. That's why they're doing all of this stupid shit. It's the same thing with guys. You know, you walk around here because I can quote unquote dick your girl down. No, you're not. You a roach ass nigga.
Exactly.
That's why you by yourself. Dudes, them guys get lonely too. I seen all of my homeboys do all that.
Man, I sure would love to, be able to relate to somebody. Man, 'cause I really get tired of interrupting somebody else's marriage.
No, and that's the sad thing about it, is like they feel empty inside.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, like I encourage people, don't buy into the hype. It's like Public Enemy said, don't believe the hype. That's all it is. It's hype. This is all hype. At the end of the day, these rappers, a lot of these rappers talking about all this side bitch and side nigga religion. At the end of the day, they got one main woman they come home to.
Oh yeah, like Snoop Dogg. You know, he was notorious for a long time. Bitches and hoes, sluts and all this stuff. And yet, there's one woman he was with for what, like...
forever.
The woman, like 20 years or something, more than that? Right. Yeah, forever.
He's probably cheated. She's even talked about it. But here's the thing. If she was out there like that on him, Snoop Dogg would be losing his damn mind.
He would have, and he admitted to that too. And then also, that time when they were divorced, he said he was depressed, and he's like, I gotta go get my girl back.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, yeah, we're not built for that. That's why I said this is what's funny to me. We think we cute talking about, oh, I got a side bitch, or I got a side chick, or I got a little main squeeze, jump off, or something. And the women, oh yeah, I keeps me excited. But at the end of the day, we can't undo millions of years of evolution. That's the beautiful part about it. It's the same thing with those females. They play all them games talking about what they're doing with guys on the side, but they miserable. They confused. They don't know what they want. But it's like that with a lot of rappers. I mean, even look at Ludacris. He's kept one girl all this time.
Yeah, he got married, too.
Yeah.
Not too long ago.
J. Cole, I laughed. I was like, his ass got caught. You talking all that shit on them records. And you had one woman. Come on, you a regular brother.
Yep. Yeah, but and even Drake sometimes, even with his confusing ass, he'd be like, I'm looking for one person to settle down with. And then the next song, he'd be like, yeah, I'm messing with this girl and this girl.
Yeah, Drake lying. Yeah. Drake got some depressing ass lyrics. I don't know if anybody ever had a chance. If you actually listen to Hotline Bling and read the lyrics, they're depression. They're really depressing. It's just about him. He's always worried about, is his girl cheating? If you notice, if you listen to a majority of his records, he's always worried about getting cheated on.
Yep. Is she cheating? Why she's changing up? Yeah, all those different things. Then he, worry about himself, like, I want real love, but at the same time, it's all those, like, that whole situation that we talked about a couple minutes ago. Confusion.
That's what it is. You want to be with somebody, but then you want to be out. You want to be free, but you want to be with somebody. But what you find out, like I said, as you get older, you find out that's bullshit. That's all bullshit. But yeah, there was just something we wanted to basically touch on here. Just about the redirecting of the moral compass of the average American man and woman. It's not necessarily exclusive to one race. It's black, white, brown. It's all over. And a lot of you fools out there are buying into the hype. Don't believe the hype. Yes, and please go ahead and continue to subscribe to Sincere's page and channel, that is, and go ahead and befriend her on Facebook. All right.